Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. This is going to be a short one and quick one. Sometimes a picture says a lot more than anyone can say. A picture is worth 1,000 words. That is very true. In this cartoon, we've got somebody depicting a situation that I think is actually very relevant in Zimbabwe. Dad, I'm considering a career in organized crime, say the little boy. And the dad answers back, church or political sector. I think in Zimbabwe, our criminals have decided to combine the two. Can be a politician and a pastor. It is shocking how our politicians have got away with so much. Chamisa, before the recent elections, promised the electorate that is going to plug, that he has plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. Amazing, unbelievable. And yet, people did believe it. People warned them that you participate in these elections, you give ZANU-PF legitimacy. They participated. And to help him get away with it, he quoted a few biblical verses, all nicely topped up, the cherry on top. Hashtag God is in it. And that had the wildebeest head mesmerized, crying out for more. After the elections, it was clear that Chamisa had not plugged any of the holes, actually. ZANU-PF blatantly rigged those elections. And thanks only to SADC election observers and the AU election observers, who for once decided that enough was enough. And they called the process as it should be, that it was flawed and illegitimate. What I find interesting is the reaction of the mob. Even now, they've not turned around to Chamisa and say, you promised that you'd plug the holes. It's as if it didn't happen. It's all what I've offered dark spec. Democracy, as defined as a government of the people, for the people, and by the people, to work, the people must be informed and they must be diligent in holding those in public office to account. In Zimbabwe, we are clearly far from that. Unless we pull up our socks, Zimbabwe is a failed state because we've got buffoons on both sides of the political divide in positions of power and authority. And we cannot run away from the fact that it is the wildebeest head, the mob, who have elected them into those positions of power, and we have kept them there. Right now, Zimbabwe has got a golden opportunity, thanks to SADC, election observer teams, who ruled out that the recent elections were farce. And by so doing, have created the opportunity for Zimbabweans to really do something to fix their failed political system. But unless the people themselves are informed and diligent, we lost that opportunity to fix our political system during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. This opportunity that SADC is creating will also be wasted unless the people really wake up. And at the present moment, I'll be honest with you, I think there is really no sign of the people waking up. This is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. This is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. If we want democracy, we have to pay the price by getting people informed, by having an informed electorate, and by having an electorate that is diligent to hold those in public office to account. That is not negotiable. That is the price we are paying for failing to meet those requirements. I said this was going to be a quick one, so I would just want to look at some of the comments and then I'll close. I've got Eve here saying, who is speaking? Well, my name is Wilbert Mukori. And somebody asked, where is this person? Well, I'm based in the UK, but I don't think that is really what we should be talking about, if you ask me. I think we should be talking about ideas, not who is speaking, as if that is relevant. I don't think that is relevant. And Eve comes back and says, if Triple C did not participate, Maduku and others would have participated. I think we've gone through that argument before. The idea that we had the GNU of 2008 to 2013 was the primary purpose of that GNU was to implement the democratic reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. The MDC leaders, who are now, most of them are in Triple C, failed to implement any meaningful reforms. And hence we are where we are today. And to keep on going back and saying, oh, by participating in these elections, Triple C is doing us a favor. Were they doing us a favor by failing to implement even one meaningful reform? The answer is no. So what are we talking about here? I think this argument is really a vicious circle. It again comes back to what I was saying. We have got an electorate that is really not informed at all. Kingston Jr. says, yes, true. Thank you. Eva comes back and says, SADC was not going to see anything if Triple C had not participated. Well, I think I've just answered that question. We cannot say that MDC leaders failed to implement reforms and did us a favor by doing so. They had the opportunity to implement the reforms. They did not. Why? Because they became greedy. Mugabe bribed Tsvangirai and company with the trappings of high office, and they forgot all about reforms. Were they doing us a favor then? We can't keep on pretending that failure to implement reforms was somehow a good plan. They've been participating in these elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed. And they've been doing it out of greed. That point, I've said it a couple of times here. Dara 5 says multi-party democracy collapsed a long time ago. Elections since 1995 were used to sugarcoat a one-party state. Well, actually, the vote rigging started in 1980. The 1980 election, Mugabe and his ZANU-PF cronies made it abundantly clear that if ZANU-PF does not win those elections, the Bush War would continue. That is not a free, fair, and credible election. The people voted to end the Bush War. And when Mugabe got his feet under the desk, he sought to consolidate and to create the one-party state you're referring to with the Gukurahundi. And we know all the consequences of that. If comes back and says, please don't mislead people. GNU came and passed. What did Unity Accord bring? Kindly blames ZANU-PF. Again, I think this is an argument that is just going round and round in circles. GNU came, and what did we achieve? The Unity Accord of 1987, I think many people would agree with the Gukurahundi. The primary purpose of the Gukurahundi was to coerce PF SAPU to give up its independence as an independent political party and force it to join ZANU-PF, clearing the desk for the imposition of the one-party state. So I think we can argue on that one, but let's focus on the GNU, which was the most recent opportunity for us to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. The opportunity was there. MDC leaders failed to implement reforms. How anyone, even now with the benefit of hindsight, can still fail to see what was the primary function of the GNU, it beggars belief. It goes back to what I was saying here. Democracy, the government of the people, for the people, by the people. It can only work if those people are informed and they are diligent to hold those in positions of power and authority to account. What did we vote MDC to do? As the party name implies, Movement for Democratic Change. After 23 years, 5 of which in the GNU, what democratic changes have they brought? If the people themselves cannot realize that they are being shortchanged, then that is where the problem is. Chamisa promised them that I plugged all the holes to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections, and topped it up with hashtag God is in it. And people believed it. And even now, when it's clear that it was all hot air, what have you, the electorate, said to Chamisa and company? Nothing. That is where our problem is. SADC is giving us a second bite, the opportunity to implement the democratic reforms and get Zimbabwe out of this mess. But as long as we have got an electorate that is so ill-informed that even after 10 years after the last GNU, we still do not understand what the GNU was about. Getting another opportunity to implement the reforms will be just wasted because nothing will be done. I need to move on. Frank says it's because of towering presence of Triple C in the election. I think he's trying to make the same point as Eve made above. I think I've answered that. Mandara 5 says, kindly let me correct what people do not see, or what I think was the purpose of the GNU 2008. There was a World Cup to be held in South Africa in 2010, in an unstable region. I think this is just a disappointing argument. We cannot pretend that the failure to implement the democratic reforms was somehow meant to make the region more stable. It beggars belief. How is a democratic Zimbabwe destabilizing the region? By failing to implement those reforms, we have actually destabilized the region. So I don't think we can, we can argue on that point. I'll just go to another point here. Tepuana says Triple C has people online, not, and he doesn't have people. I'm not sure what you want to say there. Zimbabwe and Chamisa can't do anything. People in Zimbabwe don't vote. Well, Triple C leaders, most of them were in the GNU of 2008 to 2013. They had the opportunity to implement the reforms. They failed to implement even one meaningful reform. How is anyone is failing to comprehend that beggars belief, particularly now, even with the benefit of a decade since the end of that GNU. If you can't appreciate it, it comes back to what I was saying here, that if you do not have an informed electorate, if the people are not informed, then democracy does not work. And I think that clearly shows people do not understand what the reforms were all about. They've been clamoring for change and so forth when they absolutely have no idea what that change is. That is a problem. We cannot run away from it. Taponachi comes back, says, oh, sorry, I've just read that one. Eve has come back and said, so what is your suggestion? Well, the suggestion is clearly stated there. People must be informed. They must take the effort to be informed. If you do not have an informed electorate, democracy will never work. If people do not take the trouble to find out what was it when you said you wanted change, what is it that change you wanted? People have been clamoring, particularly MDC supporters, for change. That's part and parcel of the party slogan. And yet those people have never taken the trouble to understand what is the change we want. As long as you do not have an informed electorate, it doesn't matter. The leaders will get away with anything. ZANU-PF has got away with it. Triple C have come in and they're getting away with it. We cannot run away from the fact that we have buffoons on both sides of the political divide who are running the country's affairs. Zimbabwe is a failed state in the first instance because we've got buffoons in positions of power and authority. That is a fact, a historic fact. It is also a historic fact that we, the people of Zimbabwe, have elected those buffoons into power and have kept them there in power. And as long as we have got an electorate that has no clue what is going on, This is not going to change. People can clamor all they want about we want change. There will be no change as long as you have got an electorate that is uninformed, that is not diligent to hold those in positions of power to account. I'll go back to the cartoon again. The father is right. The son is saying, I want a career in organized crime. And what could be better organized crime than the church in not only Zimbabwe, but all of Africa? And politics. This has become the dance of the crooks in Africa. Some of our church leaders, they're just wearing the clerical drab to deceive people. They carry the Bible to tranquilize and mesmerize the people. And some of our politicians have combined the two now. They're pastors and politicians at the same time. Even some of those who have not claimed to be pastors. How many times have we seen Mnangagwa and Mugabe before him and Chiwenga now, dressed up as church members because they are wooing votes from those people. We cannot deny that an uneducated, uninformed electorate will never deliver a healthy and functioning democracy. That is the main message I would like to leave tonight, with you today. I've got here Mano saying, can you tell the electorate what to do? Well, I think that is what we are talking about here, isn't it? You should take the trouble to know what is happening. And in this particular case, for most of the Zimbabweans out there who have got access to information, some of them are in the diaspora where you cannot complain that you have got no access to the internet and so forth. How can you be so ill-informed to the point where you believed Chamisa when he said, for instance, he has plugged all the holes to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections? When you know, for instance, the voters' roll was in shambles. Timpa Chedu revealed that the voters' roll was in shambles. Why did Zimbabweans out there fail to say, wait a minute, we cannot go into these elections with the voters' roll in such a mess? Yet, many of the people in the diaspora who should have been better informed were the ones who were cheering along. And ever since the rigged elections, they have been suddenly very silent. They've said nothing to condemn the misleading statements by Chamisa. Why? The other day, I was listening to a video that was circulating on the social media of Mnangagwa admitting that he rigged the elections. And his audience, who was supposed to be the cream of Zimbabwe society, were cheering him. I can't believe it. This is the Zimbabwe we are talking about. This is the electorate we are talking about. We can't keep on denying that we've got a problem with the electorate in Zimbabwe. I think I will, I'm actually tempted to close, but somebody is asking to have their say. So I'll post the the link. So you can have your say as well. Just give me a minute. Well, that is the link for those of you who would want to make their comments. I'll keep it open for another 5 more minutes for that purpose. Meanwhile, I'll read just one more comment. Eva says they didn't ask Chamisa because his petition exposed rigging. I think going back to this issue of Triple C did the nation a great favor by participating in these flawed elections. I think they've participated in previous 2013 and 2018 elections, and they were flawed. And SADC, on those 2 occasions, decided to use the presence of the opposition to give legitimacy to the process. I've got one participant here, Chief Mambo Soshe. I'll just add him in. There you are, Chief Soshe. Good afternoon to you. Oh, sorry. Okay, I don't know what has happened to him. I've added him on, but he's not appearing. Don't know what's wrong with his system there. I had another comment here from Kanyemba saying, give us